Sup, cokeheads, it's me, your favorite heterosexual piece of shit, and you know, I'm a really big fan of the children's story Pinocchio. I like that it doesn't treat the reader as just a little dumb baby, and I think it has a good message. But what if, and hear me out here, we added vomit, sexual enslavement, and cyberpunk elements? I think that's pretty cool. 964 Pinocchio is an experimental horror film directed by Shozen Fukui. It was released in 1991, and it's a relatively well-received film as far as weird, batshit extreme cinema goes. Pinocchio 964 follows Pinocchio, who would have guessed, and he's a memory-wiped cyborg sex slave. After escaping the company that sold him, he meets Himiko, a person who was potentially owned by the same company and also has no memory. However, she's a fully functional individual who is willing to help Pinocchio. And she takes him in, teaches him how to say his name. Pinocchio. And I think that they form a beautiful little friendship. And then the plot goes to shit and they start puking everywhere, and there's some weird, transformation sequence. No real explanation, just kinda, they magically transform, and I thought that was pretty cool. There was no reason for the transformation, by the way, and no explanation as to, what's going on in it. Yeah, it's cool, there's some wonderful, neon green, mucusy vomit. I love it, personally. According to the Letterboxd plot summary, Himiko, the person that Pinocchio meets, transforms in a much more subtle way than Pinocchio. But, I firmly disagree, because god damn, if that's subtle, I don't know what isn't. Post-transformation, the movie basically just becomes running around frantically in the city, and some weird showdown happens at the end, like some Dragon Ball fucking showdown at the end, where he fights the people that worked at the company, and some people die, and it's fucking great. And then the end of the movie, my god, let me tell you about the end of the movie. I can't really tell you about the end of the movie. It definitely happens, but, there's no real explanation for what the fuck it is, really. While the movie itself received generally okay reviews, I disagree. I firmly disagree. The movie lacks any plot. You have to read a plot summary in order to understand literally anything, and the plot summary only applies to, the first half of the movie. It ends up just becoming this weird, shitty movie that's barely even a horror movie, and while it masquerades as experimental, it really isn't. Just because it has some weird, semi-different camera work doesn't mean that it's an actual, true, experimental film. That was just something they could say to make it seem like their movie is less fucking dog shit. Anyways, so we all know God behind the camera, but look, it's Jesus Christ. You don't have a mic.
No, I don't. Jesus Christ represent... Oh, over here? Alright. Jesus Christ represent, but a little to the left this time. This movie was a boring slogfest with shitty camera work, for no good reason, with a lot of weird design choices, and to be honest, you could only get the plot if you were the director. And the IMDb page, or whatever the fuck you got the synopsis from, just doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. It only checks out for the first 20 minutes, and then the rest of the movie is just a confusing mess with bad camera work, bad angles, and no discernible idea of what the fuck is going on. The ending made me want to blow his brains out.
The ending made me want to blow my brains out.
Jesus H. Christ, represent.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, if Jesus Christ himself hates the movie, it's probably not particularly good. So, after hearing those criticisms, what is it that people even like about the movie? What is it that makes it somewhat well received, if it's a plotless mess? Well, I went to Letterbox for some higher reviews, and I will read some of them to you. A Letterboxd patron, Theo, gave this movie 4.5 stars and said, "Love this movie. Literal insanity. This is Japanese surrealist cyberpunk at its best. Weird camera angles, fast-paced editing, pure insanity, crazy characters, a possession-style subway freakout, and so much more. Even better on rewatch. Could see this being a 5-star after I watch it again. Nothing else like this exists. Super entertaining and unique. If you're a fan of Tetsuo, referring to Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is a body horror film, definitely check this one out, though it isn't for everyone. Overall, easily one of my favorites, and such an underrated movie. Love it. Now, while I definitely can't deny that nothing else quite like it exists, I think we're better off that way. Maybe you can find it fun, but, 97 minutes of plotless, goofy-ass shenanigans isn't much of a movie in my opinion. But let's read another review. Ian West, a user on Letterbox, says, "A real trip. Disgusting grime slime, strobed out gutter filth chaos textured with disturbing blood mucus, pus-filled oily fluids, and the best kind of hyperkinetic cyberpunk majestics. Drags on a bit for me, but that's just a minor quip. The pure insane rage on display here is 90s cyberpunk royalty." Which, by the way, 97 minutes? Yeah, I agree with him. It definitely goes on a little long.
Yo, God face reveal, what's up, man? Hey, you boys. Hey, you boys. It's your boy God here. My son just came back from the hood. Okay, this is just a tiny complaint to all you disturbing movie makers. Fix your editing. Oh my God, as an editor, it genuinely makes me want to kill myself. That's just okay. I just had to come in and say that. Here you go.
I agree with him. Fuck you, Lucifer Valentine. Ultimately, because Pinocchio 964 lacks any plot and ends up just being random shit happening on screen at a somewhat quick pace for quite some time, I didn't particularly find it entertaining. The only thing that made it entertaining was watching it with Jesus Christ and God themselves. And our banter basically carried the entire movie. Now, while I definitely have my problems with the movie, there are some things that I did find kind of cool. I thought that the transformation was actually kind of interesting, though it did drag on a bit. I thought that there were some cool ideas there. Now, even though the plot doesn't really exist, what the summary does say, so what it technically the plot is, I actually do kind of find interesting. I think the idea of it is fun. I just think that the execution came out boring and messy, which is unfortunate. Now, while I have been absolutely shitting on this movie relentlessly, I do believe it's worth the watch, to be quite honest. I do believe that it's an interesting watch, though, and I believe that it's something fun to say and discuss with people, because there's such a wide variety of opinions. So, that's Pinocchio 964, a cyberpunk mess. Well, damn.